What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Sean Williams here with another podcast of Elephant in the Room. I'm joined with my guest today, my dad, Greg Williams. How are you today?
Fine, Sean. How are you?
Good, good, outstanding. So let's just get right into it. Tell
Sure.
us a little bit about yourself. Your business background. What's your occupation?
Well, currently I'm doing a couple of things as a consulting contractor, and one of them am a concierge driver for clients who need to get back and forth to the airport or moderately long distances, say within the tri-state area, getting them to point A to point B.
Got you, got you. So what is the name of that company, if you don't mind asking for saying?
Well, the name of that company is called AM Ride.
Mm-hmm.
Been working with them for a little over 5 years now. We started pre-COVID, taking clients or picking up clients from social events, and it was huge success for that line of business because the liability was reduced from that person who was either wanted to have a good time with their family or if they were with friends or other couples and they were libating, and it just gave them an opportunity to not worry about driving home or getting other loved ones home. So that service where we partook in, we drove for them, so it reduced a lot of that liability for them.
Absolutely. And how similar is it to AM rides to like Uber or Lyft?
Well, it's similar, but Uber and Lyft, of course, they're very brand well known names. They are strategically placed in kind of a substitution of where our old taxi systems used to be in major
Mm,
cities or our moderately sized cities or small towns. Uber takes over that place of getting a passenger from point A to point B within, say, city limits or something. AM Ride is similar to that, where we work to have various arms, and one of them, as I mentioned before, was bringing people home from social events. I've also done driving in relationship to bringing customers and picking up customers back and forth from the airports
mm.
in this area, and we all know what they are. And then to go on to getting customers or clients to longer distances in relationship to either a companion, a traveling companion that's a little bit of a struggle for them to get onto a plane, plus a lot of restrictions in relationship to airlines as far as how much luggage you can bring on and the types of things you can bring on. So AM Ride provides a really good service from that perspective to get people from, like I said, a moderately long distance perspective without that hassle of the airlines and checking in and then your baggage and then your ID and all of those type of things. So like I said, I've been doing it over 5 years now. It's a great opportunity. It's a great growth opportunity again. Now we're on the other side of COVID and people are feeling more comfortable traveling again. So um, that's just one of the things that I do to occupy my time.
Absolutely. And so you said you've been doing it for 5 times, or you've done it for 5 years now. What is it? What was it like during COVID when people were locked inside and they didn't really want to venture out, they didn't really want to travel, or they couldn't?
Well, for that line of business, it literally was slow. It was almost non-existent. I mean, if
Mm,
you remember, in the early phases of COVID, nobody was traveling anywhere. So people were feeling, of course, uncomfortable going from one state to another to visit family, friends, or vacations. Even in the logistics of our AM Right and how that process works, being in a car with a non-family member that you didn't know where their possible exposure or they were exposed. So the business pretty much was very slow to non-existent.
absolutely. So personally, during COVID, you're a family man, you have a family, two loving kids and a wife. What was going through your head during COVID? Well, you couldn't really work, and you were stuck at home. What exactly was going through your head at the time? What were you thinking about doing? at that point in time during COVID?
Well, I would say for me and our family and a lot of other families, it was a stressful time because one of my sources of income was non-existent. So I had to pretty much find other ways to earn income in a period where everything was pretty much shut down. It was luckily enough that the government and other vendors that we use for our daily lives pretty much were sympathetic in stalling in pushing back your monthly payments and things. So that kind of relieved some of the pressure into not being able to bring income in on a regular basis based in that area. So that provided a lot of stress. But then again, I found other ways to kind of relieve that stress because I think in that downtime where the hustle and bustle of the real world wasn't going on, really gave me time to connect with our family and connect with really our neighbors and really focus on the home front.
Absolutely. So, in a state of anxiety and panic, you decided not to go with whatever was going on in the media and strike, letting the media strike fear in you, and you decided to be proactive. And instead of sitting down, you stood up and you made the most of your day, even though you couldn't do what was maybe, um, you know, necessary for your family. You went out and you made friends with the neighbors and you found another way. When one door closes, another one opens, and you took advantage of that. Um, what can you say for people that didn't take advantage of that time, during COVID and kind of sat there, felt bad for themselves, and let their circumstances control their life?
Well, I would say overall, for not only our family, there was a lot of stress and anxiety for other families. And one of the things I think that really got us through was again talking about that specific piece of reaching out to your friends and neighbors, of course, from a social distancing perspective. Um, so I think, or I know at least that one or two of our neighbors were really struggling with the isolation of COVID because they of course they lived alone, and of course they've had friends and things that they reached out to. But I would say a lot of those people that either lived alone or was just one other sibling, um, there were lonely times, or there were times that you wanted to do outreach and within your neighborhood or within your community in a safe environment. So I think in our neighborhood's perspective that we took it upon ourselves to reach out to our neighbors that did live alone, whether it was dropping off a meal once in a while or just a quick phone call to check in to see how they were doing, or if they needed anything, or if we were out doing some yard work or something and if they needed some help, from that perspective. So I think from our neighborhood's perspective, that's what we did to kind of combat people that were probably feeling the walls were closing in on them a little bit, living alone in that pandemic perspective.
Absolutely. And that theme runs through the family with helping others and reaching out to other people. You had reached out to people during COVID who were alone and felt like there was nobody there for them. Your wife has a track program. My mom has a track program. And, she reaches out to kids from ages until they can walk till 12 years old or 12th grade and helps them become good people and athletes. Do you think that the theme of helping others and, being a good person is strong within the family, but not only within the family, but yourself as well?
I agree 100%. I think in the community that we lived in, I've had various experiences in how the community really opens up to help other people, and if you're willing to receive help, to get help if you need it also.
Mm,
So yeah, I think one of the ways, as you mentioned a moment ago, how we as a family reached out is through the track program, our middle school track program, and of course we touch on a lot of young kids, and then of course most importantly the same type of parents like ourselves that were care about their kids, care about their development, care about their community, and did outreach. I can't tell you how many dialogues that we had between your mom as far as the coach of the team and her relationships that she had with those parents, I think one of the parents during COVID for us actually gave us like tomato plants that one year that were like really good, like probably medium sized, but they were a good foundation. And I remember that year we had more tomatoes we know what to do with, but that was a good opportunity. I know we we also did some things as far as reaching out to people in the community and connecting with the fire department, making sure people had extra water and things along that lines, if they had power outages and things. So little things like that, and then in contact or reaching out in the areas that we were already, influential in, just to kind of keep that community outreach going.
Absolutely. And, it's always good to help others and, be there for other people, especially when they need it. Can you tell us a little bit about where you came from and how you grew up and everything like that?
Oh, sure. I think I've told you this many times, but I originally grew up in Reading, Pennsylvania. I came here to Connecticut. Well, grew up in Reading, Pennsylvania. Went to high school, graduated there. Then I went into the Navy. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to see how different cultures of people lived and how they survived, and just understanding how we as people evolved to where we are today. So I really wanted to get a flavor of that. And, from my family history, I had a lot of cousins, uncles, aunts, uncles who joined the military, and a lot of them joined the Army for whatever reasons, and that seemed to be a goal for them. My goals are a little bit different. I wanted to, of course, get a technical education that the Navy provided, and I wanted to see the world, which the Navy provided, and I also wanted to get an opportunity to also focus on my personal development by continuing my education. So I joined the Navy, and it's a funny story. I walked into a small town, Reading, Pennsylvania recruiting office, and said to the recruiter, I said, get me as far away from Reading, Pennsylvania as you can, because at the time it was very limited for opportunities for young people, maybe more so African American perspective. But I knew and had seen that if I decided to stay in Reading after I graduated high school or to pursue a career, I didn't foresee the life that I really thought it was going to be,
Mm.
or at least the adventurous side of my life at the time. So that's what was a passion for me, to say I want to see the world and see all that, like I said before. But most importantly, the Navy was important to me. So I served in the Navy for 10 years. I had an opportunity. I went to boot camp in Great Lakes, Illinois, in the depth of winter. So if you've ever been in a room and there's ice about an inch thick on the inside of the windows, that's training. But secondly, I was able to have a unique career in the Navy where I was part of a first crew team. They call them plank owners, and these are the first original crew of a ship that's newly commissioned, as they say. So if you've ever seen old ship movies and they commission ships and they have the bottle of champagne and they break it off the side of the bow, that's what they call christening the ship or commissioning the ship. So I had an opportunity operationally, from a ship's perspective, of course, to be ready for any kind of combat, to make sure the equipment was tested and operating in that capacity where we could go at a moment's notice. So getting a brand new ship, prepared like that is a unique skill, and I did that twice in my career. Once out of Jacksonville, Florida, and then once out of Long Beach, California. And so I took very good pride in that, because it's like when you take something new out of the package and you hit all the buttons and it's all that new car smell or whatever that is. And of course, not everything always works well like it's supposed to sometimes when it's brand new, or you have to learn something new as you're opening the box, in a sense. So that was kind of the adventure. And then, of course, the adventure of that ship is making sure it was battle ready by really taking it somewhere else. So on both ships, I had an opportunity to see both sides of the world. One through Europe, three sides of the world: South America, and then of course Asia, on my second ship in California. At that point in time, I kind of missed home. I missed the culture of home, Pennsylvania, the Four Seasons, those type of things. So I uh, took an opportunity to be a Navy recruiter in Washington, D.C. So that was
Mhm.
my last 3 years of my tour where I was a Navy recruiter. And I really enjoyed that because I had such a great experience in the Navy, and I wanted to share that with young students like I was in high school, figuring out what I was going to do, if it was going to be college or if it was going to be something else. I knew for me it was definitely something else because I just couldn't see myself going back to 4 more years of school. But however, when I was in the military, I did invest in myself and I did get some college education, but I kind of had it done in a non traditional type of way, unlike this amazing university that you're a graduate of and will be a graduate of again. So that's a little bit about my Navy background. And I had, like I said, a rewarding career in the latter part of it as a recruiter. And then at the end of that, I still had an opportunity to stay in the Navy or go out to the private sector, and the private sector was more appealing at that time. So I resigned, and then went into the private sector from there, and the rest, you know.
Absolutely. Would you say that within life, um, there's a quote that somebody said along the lines of, "You can't take care of other people until you take care of yourself." How much do you believe in that quote?
I believe in that 200%. I wanted to kind of touch on that because you had asked some questions about how we as a family and how I believed in how rich and robust community outreach is. That point that you made is so important. You can't take care of anybody unless you take care of yourself first.
Hmm.
You're no good to anybody, helping anybody, unless you get taken care of or you take care of yourself. That is so true and so important. And I know through my personal and professional development, a lot of people say, well, were you a little selfish with yourself? I would say no, because you have to take some time for yourself in order to be better for others.
Hmm.
You can't really focus on how people see you in that moment. Like they're saying, oh, well, he's just thinking about him and just this and this and that. For what they may see for that moment, I am. But they may not know the bigger picture and why I'm doing this self enrichment piece. So maybe I could help 10 more people. So you can't really, or at least what I've learned through life, that you can't really focus on what other people think of your lineage of time in the space of helping others or not helping others. Because when you're not helping others, you're helping yourself to maybe help others later.
Mm.
So that's the point, that I agree with you 100%, that you are no good to yourself if you don't take care of yourself first.
Absolutely. Um, Greg, this has been an amazing time. We are running low on time right now.
Okay,
So, absolutely, I appreciate this conversation and thank you for being on my show today.
fantastic. I had a great time and hope you invite me back again.
This has been an episode of Elephant in the Room. I am Sean Williams, and my guest, Greg Williams, was also my dad. And we'll see you next time. Have a good one.